All right, we have a fairly new member, Mr. Greg Knight here, who's giving a speech later today, and he posed a question about how do I write a bio. And not only for Toastmasters do you want to have a bio, but a whole introduction. And I was reading a book called How to Win Every Argument by Gerry Spence. Now, I read this a number of years ago, and he's an old country lawyer who was really famous during the O.J. Simpson trials because they would ask him all the time, you know, what was going on? You're a defense lawyer, how are they doing this? And they wanted, you know, the inside baseball of the O.J. Simpson trial. So he was very famous. But in his book, he related that he was asked to speak in front of a bunch of professionals and talk about his life and some of the things pertinent to what they were doing. And he got there, and the MC, the Master of Ceremonies, hadn't done his homework. So the Master of Ceremonies got up there and said, did the faux pas, and now a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Gerry Spence. And Gerry Spence, who, very famous person, especially amongst lawyers and people of that in the news and had been around a while, became incensed. He was upset. And in his book, he really explains, it takes him a couple of paragraphs to go through all the emotions that he went through. But he said he just got there and he glared at the Master of Ceremonies. Now, if you haven't seen Gerry Spence, he's got long hair. He wears a leather coat with fringe. He's very leathery because he lives in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is snowing like 380 days out of the year. It's very outdoor. He's a rugged guy. He's an old country gentleman. He speaks very deliberately, but he's very thoughtful. But he also can be extremely intimidating when you upset him. And a couple of times he was upset about different things that went on TV. So he's staring at the MC, and the MC's kind of doing this. He says, I'm not going to begin my speech until I get a proper introduction. And then he stared at the MC, and the MC got a little sweaty, and he didn't start. And eventually someone from the audience who was very familiar with Gerry Spence got up and gave an introduction that wasn't written out or anything, but gave him, this is what I know, this is why I came to listen to this man speak today. And with that, Gerry Spence got up and gave a really great speech, is the way he put it. So the point of this story really is, we as Toastmasters, or if you're a Master of Ceremonies and you have a speaker that's coming in, especially someone that's famous, if you don't do a little bit of homework and know a little bit about their background and give them a living, one, it's just rude. We don't want to invite someone in, even though a lot of times for a keynote speaker or something, you're paying them some money. But at the same time, if you don't give them an introduction, a man that needs no introduction, that's a slap in the face. That's rude to your speaker, and it doesn't put them in a very good mood. So you want to get your money out of this guy. You want him to be impassionate, or gal, and passionate and everything. So we don't want to be rude. We also, what Gerry Spence was saying is, when there's a good introduction, it energizes him. It makes him feel proud. Okay, now they know who I am. I'm here for a reason. I'm giving them something that they really want to hear. And so you get a better speech from the person who's about to speak. Now, as Toastmasters, we are always introducing our speaker. And when we're here, we all know each other, so it's pretty easy to kind of wing it, just kind of throw something out there. But in all honesty, when we're trying to be professional and we have a guest speaker, or we've had guests in the past, we don't today, but if you have someone here that doesn't know Greg or doesn't know any of us, it's very important to go through and let them know this is Greg. This is what Greg is doing right now. This is what he's going to speak upon. So to have the bio, it's very important to hit his key credentials, because you want to, your first step in the intro is to enlighten the audience as to who the speaker is. Okay, Greg gave us a very long bio, and what I did is, because I have the bio, I've gone in and I kind of gleaned things out and narrowed it down a little bit, made it a little more concise, but it gives him credentials so that you all know, hey, this guy is speaking about something and he knows something, even if it's just a hobby, just to set up the credibility. And then the second part, which also is very important, but I don't know, is what is the speech about? I need to know the topic. I need to know, as far as Toastmasters go, how long it's going to be, because some of our speeches are 5 to 7 minutes, some are 4 to 6, and in the advanced manuals, there may be 3 parts, and it's going to take 20 minutes to go through all 3 parts. And there's a timer, and people want to know how long is it going to be. So to have a title of your speech, for Toastmasters especially, to know what book you're working on. Now I know Greg is in the Competent Communicator Manual, and I can also see from here that it's the body language, I believe. Is that
This is vocal variety.
vocal variety? Okay, so that'll be something that I'm going to throw into the introduction so that the audience is aware, and it all goes back to helping Greg's credibility with everyone. So when you kind of put it all together, when you're working on an introduction, whether it's your own or for someone else, you want to hit your key credibilities. Okay, what are you qualified to do? I have a blue belt in Goju-Ryu. That's a true fact. What that has to do with most of the things I talk about? Pretty much nothing. Maybe a little bit. So that would be something that you don't need. You want to make sure that you're hammering in on the credentials that make it, because we don't want the intro to be longer than the speech. We want it to be quick and concise. If you're paying to come to an event, you're not paying to come hear me as the Toastmaster or Master of Ceremonies. My job is to make sure everything's going along. Greg's job is to speak today. So what we're going to do is I'm getting ready to give you Greg. Our speaker today is a graduate of Abilene Christian in conflict resolution and reconciliation. He is a retired military officer who served in multiple healthcare leadership roles throughout the world, and is currently the Chief Executive Manager for Knight Peacemaking Solutions, a professional mediation company. He will be speaking from the Competent Communicator Manual on vocal variety. He's going to tell you the title of his speech. Please help me welcome Mr. Greg Knight.